All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 5. Is that
Yeah,
for
man.
real? Like, it's really, we've been doing, wow, 5 weeks. I'm proud of us.
Do you know that means that we've been in lockdown for 5 weeks?
At a minimum, because I think this will, like, we didn't jump on it immediately.
Yeah.
So welcome to episode 5 of Ryan and Nick's Two Bros, One Flick. I am not Nick, and you are not.
Ryan.
There you go. So.
We're getting really good at saying our lines.
This week, I was telling Nick, drinking a virus-themed beer to go with this movie that makes me want to kill myself. So let's talk about The Discovery.
Fair enough.
So you've seen this one before. Do you want me to be the talky dude, or do you want to, since you've seen it twice, do you want to walk us through the brief, spoiler-free synopsis?
I want to hear your take on it. I want to hear you experience it.
Okay. So with a lot of these movies, I kind of treat them like theater movies where I will go watch the trailer first. So I'm not like super blind to going into them if I haven't seen them before. So anyway, for this one, you've got Jason Segel. He, as the movie starts, he's going to, well, he's on a boat. You don't really know where he's going. But basically, it exists in a world where a man has discovered that this soul does something after life. So
Yeah,
scientifically that there is an afterlife. Now, there's no definition of what that is, but the repercussions are basically that people started committing suicide and stuff like that. So from what we know from the preview, we know those things. Do we know much more than
basically, he discovers that like your consciousness, they can measure where your consciousness goes after you die.
Yeah.
They can measure that it goes somewhere.
Yeah, like there's I think how the lady defines it is brain wavelengths with no brain activity, and they source out from the body. So that's like a scientific way to say, okay, there's definitely doing something. We just don't know what that is. So essentially, Jason Segel's father is the one who has made this discovery, and for 2 years, it's kind of wreaked havoc on the world. And just in a brief synopsis, he goes to confront his father about it and why the other baggage that comes with that, and his family history. So that's I would say that's pretty much spoiler free where you get in on that. Yeah, man. I'm gonna say that there was definitely a lot of big ideas, a lot of big swings. Yeah. I always respect someone for swinging at such a heavy subject matter to just be like, hey, we're going to contemplate, people's satisfaction in their lives. The idea that, hey, if we know there's something afterwards, why are we running to the end of this? I know a lot of people's like reactions in it were they use the term to get there, to like get to the other side. And that was really interesting. It was also quirky, which I think definitely comes with like having Jason Segel in it.
I definitely didn't remember it being as like quirky funny as like some parts of it were. Like I remembered it being pretty rough, like and pretty like makes your head hurt a little bit how dark it gets at sometimes. But like, yeah, I didn't remember like some of the funny moments that I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah. No, I go ahead.
What did you think of it overall? Like if you don't give me like a score, but tell me like satisfied, unsatisfied, unresolved, a little, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that goes back to maybe the genre I would put it in. It was definitely its sci-fi elements because it was asking gigantic questions. But because of the social nature, I guess, of the questions themselves, and really the story that played out, it felt very much like a drama.
Sure.
Now, because of that, like I was happy with the ending of it. I thought it was interesting. I thought they took a lot of risks. Robert Redford's character comes off super crazy sometimes. You're like, whoa. But overall, I don't know. Like, it's not a movie I could go back and watch again and again and again. And like, I might even be a little bit selective over who I tell to watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I would tell my brother to watch it. I probably wouldn't tell my sister to watch it because I would never hear the end of it. She'd be like, "Why did you make me watch this depressing garbage?" Like, hey, life. So
thinking about it.
It definitely gave me thoughts afterwards. I definitely thought about it today. I definitely, as they were reasoning the movie out, I thought the pacing was done really well. As they were reasoning like their logic out of the story and how everything was flowing together, I was looking for holes to be like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because it is tricky what they pulled off. But they did a good job of sprinkling in. Okay, I was thinking about this today. So when you have a world that has a pre-existing like rule where things are different, you can do things one of really two ways. You can do it, which a lot of sci-fi will do poorly, like bad sci-fi will give you a big long opening sequence where they just describe something for you. The most popular one, and it's not a sci-fi fan, but a film, but the one that pops in my head is like the first Lord of the Rings. The lady is basically telling you the history of their world for like 100 years before the movie starts. And this history does not include any of the characters that are going to have any role as this movie plays out. So, and when you have a system where it's not going to follow normal rules, you kind of have to introduce those rules. And how do you do that? You can do that with lots of exposition at the beginning. You can do it with not explaining anyone and letting people be kind of lost, or you can cleverly put it in to dialogue. And they did a good, maybe after the spoilers, I'll be able to explain this a little bit better. They did a good job of establishing rules that they were going to later follow just in throwaway dialogue.
Sure.
I thought that was really well done,
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's hard for me because I do, like, sitting through it twice was different. I remember the first time watching it, really coming away like, that was a cool movie.
Yeah.
And I still think of it in the same light. It's just like, I kind of agree in the sense that, like, I don't know if I'd want to watch it again. Like I still think the idea and the concepts are cool. And this is the kinds of movies I like. Like, in the form of a movie, you can kind of explore things that you couldn't do elsewhere. And you can, instead of, like in a video game, you explore it at your own pace and you explore it in any way you want to. But
Sure.
Something that I like about movies is you get to explore an idea, but through someone else's, like vision.
Mm-hmm.
So you may come away with something from it that you never would have before.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I liked about this movie a lot, is like, if I had an idea for for a movie like that, I don't think I would have taken it down any of the same paths. Like, yeah. I don't think I would have thought of it that way. And so, like, the whole concept that if there's an afterlife, you're going to have massive amounts of suicides.
Yeah.
And like, if we could prove it, kind of a thing. Like, so it is.
Well, even like just coming in on the preview side with that being kind of introduced to you, I think I just kind of messaged. Weird. Anyway, saying something to you. That distracted me.
Side note.
It just popped across my screen. I was like, what the
I guess you're popular. Whatever. Let's move on.
No, it's work stuff. I'm like, it's beer o'clock, son. But no, like you would think that it would maybe spend a lot of time on mental health and what mental health is, and it doesn't even go that route. You know what I mean? Like
Sure. Yeah.
they definitely did attack all of these things from a different perspective, and they still struggled with like the morality of what they were doing as well. So I don't know. It did a lot of good things. It was just a subject I don't like to dwell on a whole lot. Like, come stare into the darkness with us for an hour and a half.
You're welcome, Ryan.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm picking Sophie's Choice Netflix edition.
The Netflix adaptation. I like it.
It's a sci-fi movie with two orcs.
But they're police officers in an elf neighborhood. No, we'll get to you, Bright, eventually.
Yeah. We're coming for you. All right.
So anyway, so score? Okay.
0 to 10. Come on. Hit me with a big one.
I'm going to give it a 7.6 because like it was a solid movie. Like I said, we haven't really gone through the technical aspects, but I thought it was a solid movie. It just is, and is well put together, and it doesn't leave me with like the writer didn't put a flag in the ground or draw a line in the sand and be like, and that's what suicide's about. You deal with it. Instead, it really truly was a sci-fi. It was truly questioning just with this case scenario put out, what are the reactions? What are the rules and stuff? So I'm going to sit with a 7.6, which I did have to check before this. That's only a 0.1 above the platform for me. So,
wow, I didn't even think anything would touch the platform for you. I thought we were gonna go a while.
Well, after that poop scene, no one should touch the platform. It just needs to be scrubbed down, the whole thing.
We can't go an episode without talking about poop scene.
Oh, hey, congratulations, Nick. This is the third movie you have picked now, and not a single one has had a poop scene. So,
look, I'm a classy guy. I don't go for movies with poop scenes. Okay, I'm above that. Clearly,
I am obviously not above that.
Look, I'll find a great one, and I'll throw it. Like we already know, 10 out of 10, Dumb and Dumber, one of the greatest poop scenes ever. So,
I love it.
I'm not that high on it, but I'm pretty high on it. I'd say it's like a 7.1.
Okay.
Like, I really like it. I suggest it to other people. I think it's a good movie. But as far as like movies that are kind of more up my alley, I think this one's a little bit more slow paced. Like I'd say the style of this sci-fi is more of like a mystery adventure. Like you're trying to figure out what's going on the whole time.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas like I kind of like to follow something that's a little bit faster with maybe like more of a Dark Side of the Moon. You know how it was kind of more, you're still trying to figure stuff out, but there's like, I don't know a good way to describe it. There's just a lot more going on, it feels like. Like there's a lot more scenes, there's a lot more different environments.
Well, this you get, it's all about character development. Because I mean, in general, there are 4 characters that you really explore, and each one of them you're given little nuggets about, and they kind of unfold each other until you get a bigger picture of everything. Versus something where someone's literally having to accomplish a physical feat to solve, which I mean, I guess they did steal a body. So,
spoiler,
body theft in this. They didn't need it. Maybe that's a spoiler too. Maybe I should cut this out. Cut this out. There's nobody else here.
It's just Cammy. Cammy, cut this out, okay?
if it was Cammy, the light would just be waving all around the place or something. But no. Well, cool. Okay. So you're at 7.1. I will advise you that is in fact the same score you gave in Shadow of the Moon.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'd say they're pretty equivalent. I would say that the actors and the way this movie was done is better than Dark Side of the Moon.
Well, I think the
But
entertainment factor as far as action and stuff is probably much more intense in the Shadow of the Moon. And in this
that's what I'm
one,
saying.
like this one, I felt like the script was better thought out,
Yeah,
but it wasn't as big of, like, they didn't have a lot of special effects. They didn't have a bus crash where the lady slid across, 4 streets or whatever, all that sort of stuff.
but yeah. So actually, I didn't know that I did that. So, but that makes a lot of sense because I would say that where they both have good parts that I really enjoy about them, but are lacking in equal parts. So like
Okay.
storyline in Dark Side of the Moon and like kind of the resolution of all of it is kind of where it threw me off. Whereas like probably like the pacing and the style of the Discovery is where it like drops off for me a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. So then let's just walk down our list. You're saying the style of the story delivery, the shot choice, or the pacing was not necessarily something that kept you on the edge of your seat. It was
I'm just saying I'd prefer a movie where there's like more of like a main event that I'm following. You
sure,
know, like
like
I
higher
really enjoy.
stakes.
Like War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
Like the storyline's not amazing in that movie, but I
Okay.
really like the journey you follow him going on. Like all the different scenarios he has to go through to kind of like keep himself alive and stuff like that. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think this movie needed that. That would be more of my type of movie.
Yeah. Or like the first Trolls movie, where a lot of the
Exactly.
trolls get picked up and taken back to be eaten later, and
Did
the
you
one
see the
troll
live action
goes
Dora
on.
the Explorer?
I love it.
She lost
All
her
right.
map. I mean, it's just.
All right, so I think for this one, as is the case, you've got our scores. I think we need to jump into a deeper dive so that we can really talk about the specificities of this movie. Oh wait, no, before we jump to our spoiler, does it remind you of anything else?
Does it remind me of anything else? Oh man, I'd have to go through the catalog. I have to go through the old school sci-fi's. I don't know.
It reminded
Maybe
me.
maybe Inception a little bit,
Oh, okay.
kind of.
I can see that.
Like just the concept of like being able to do something affect the mind and something and how that
Yeah.
plays out in the world. But I mean, they're not terribly similar.
No, yeah. I would say like probably because I don't really know that there's a movie that's just like this, which I have to say, we've said that about, I would say, 3 of the 5 movies we watched, that there's just not another movie. You know what I mean? So I
I
would
mean,
say
Free Willy's kind of like this.
when Jason Segel raises his hand and his dad jumps over in the water and lands free in the ocean. I'm sorry, that was a big spoiler.
And then he commits suicide.
No, no, but like what I was gonna say, the it's got like a patchwork of other films. But one of the things
Yeah.
that it reminded me of is something that like you I feel like you could have swapped out Jason Segel for Elijah Wood, and I totally would have watched the same movie. Because like
Yeah.
he's always those quirky, just like off a little bit things. I don't know. So
Yeah.
so I don't know that
And
it really definitely 100% reminded me of something, but like, did you ever see? There's an Elijah Wood movie where he goes across Europe to find to trace his footsteps of his ancestors, which were like European Jews that left because of the Holocaust. But it was like a funny movie.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, that was a great description of it, wasn't it? This funny movie about the Holocaust.
Do you mean the one where he's like a hobbit? And
Yes, yes. They were going through Mordor, which
that was
is just an
basically a
allegory for
Holocaust.
Germany. Yeah. No.
I
Not the
mean,
Hobbit.
it sounds really cool.
Well, thanks.
I love watching movies about the Holocaust.
Doesn't everyone? No, but it was the same kind of movie, like where it was quirky and funny. Everything is illuminated. There we go.
Okay.
But it was definitely had very funny parts. But the subject matter itself was so heavy that it kind of leaves you with that at the end of it, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to watch that again. But it was
Okay,
enjoyable.
wait. Do you agree that the funniest moment in this movie is when Jason Segel is just like standing in his room and his brother comes in and goes, "Oh, hey, were you sleeping?"
He's like, I'm literally standing here. He's like, yeah, that's something people say. It's like, no.
I'm standing.
I enjoyed him and Isla's interactions at the beginning a lot too. Like it really set that pace for like, oh, you're just going to be smacked in the face with awkward dialogue, and it's gonna.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's a great bridgeway. Let's jump into spoiler zone. I did
Here we
the
go.
short synopsis. Why don't you walk us through the big steps?
All right. So we start the movie with Jason Segel on a ferry, and
The Winslow ferry. He's being carried by a ferry through the forest. It's a high fantasy film.
Except not, it's a boat. I think you watched the wrong movie.
Gummit. No wonder I didn't like it.
And on the boat, he's the only one there except for one other girl whose name is Isla. And they kind of have this awkward like interaction where, they're talking to each other about why they're going to the place they're going to. And it kind of starts this I would say it starts like a good tone to the movie where you're kind of thinking like it's going to be a little quirky, a little funny. Meanwhile, the whole time they're talking, there's like a ticker in the background of how many people are committing suicide.
Yeah, man, it's like it reoccurs through the movie. I was like, wait, what? Wait. Yeah.
Oh, and in that scene too, we're introduced to I guess before that, we're brought into a interview scene where his dad is being interviewed about the discovery he made.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, basically they've already had a ton of suicides, and they're asking his dad, like, do you feel like responsible for this at all? Or, any kind of remorse? And he's kind of deflecting. And then in the middle of that interview, someone who's part of the crew kills himself.
Yeah.
And so that is playing on a TV on the ferry when we first get introduced to Jason Segel. So it kind of sets the scene for like, okay, this guy doesn't want to know anything about Robert Redford's character for some reason. Yeah. He's uncomfortable with it. We don't know why yet. And then so we follow them off the ferry. Isla goes off with some random person, and Jason Segel gets picked up by his brother and taken to their new family house, which is like this giant mansion.
Yeah.
And we find out that Jason Segel is the son of Robert Redford, and they have this giant mansion because basically Robert Redford has started to pick up followers, people who have been affected by the discovery and are now like they have some sort of loss and don't know what to do with their lives. So they've come to Robert Redford. He's given them some sort of purpose.
But similarly, we found that he kind of had to hide himself because of all of that attention.
He was kind of, I think they mentioned that it was dangerous where they were before. So I guess some people were probably upset.
Well, imagine if like you were a parent and your child killed themselves, you would probably hold him pretty responsible for something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that, man, here we go in this fun movie.
Da, 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 da.
And then I think it's basically we're just following Jason Segel into the house. He goes into his old room. He's gonna sleep on his bunk beds with his brother, which is great. I like that he wants the top bunk at first.
Yeah, yeah. Because he's a
um,
monster of a human. He's just so big.
yeah. What's the next scene? I'm trying to think
um,
about it. I don't.
I mean, he
I
gets
don't
introduced to his dad's lab staff,
Oh, that's right.
and I don't remember what drives him to walk away. So his dad says something, and it drives him to walk to see the ocean, just because he's walked to the edge of the property or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. That's right. And so he's upset by what his dad's doing. I think his dad mentions like it's good to see you back here, or something like this is where you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
something like that. So you kind of understand that he's been involved with his dad's work on
Yes.
some level.
And
And then he
he did
go
mention on the boat that he was a neurologist. So,
right.
and with his dad studying those same things, and now the dad just connected that, yeah, in fact, they did work on that together pre Fallout. And they clearly had a Fallout.
Yeah, very clearly. And then he walks out to the ocean where he finds Isla trying to kill herself in the ocean.
Yeah.
She's going to go drown herself. And so he runs out into the ocean, basically rescues her, and brings her back to his dad's like mansion. I
Compound.
don't
Let's just call it a compound.
compound. And I don't think she's very happy about it. She very
No,
clearly
no.
wanted to kill herself. So, and then when she gets back to the mansion, her compound, her, his dad starts going through this questionnaire with her, and it's a bunch of questions about kind of like her mental state. It seems like, and how maybe the discovery has affected that. So it's like kind of centered around maybe what her mental state is, and then how learning more about what they're doing there could affect that. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we get the sense that if she passes this questionnaire, then she gets to stay at the compound.
Yes.
She does end up
And we
passing.
also kind of get the impression that like a lot of the people there survived multiple suicide attempts of themselves. Not all of them, but they imply a lot of them have. So it almost like to me was like him being scientifically trying to make sure that he was being responsible. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to put somebody that the more we learn, they're just going to go in the kitchen and slit their throat. Like I
Yeah.
want people that are just like genuinely curious about it. Not so. But maybe that was just me.
I mean, that's part of what you were talking about initially, where you get the creepy vibes from him.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? you start to kind of feel uneasy about Jason Segel's dad right then, like Robert Redford. He
does them personally.
Yeah.
Right. He records them in the device. No one else can have access to this information. It's almost like making disciples or something. It is, it was weird.
Yeah. And you like some things about the compound. You see that like people are wearing different colored jumpsuits, and there's some sort of hierarchy formed. And Jason Segel points it out to his brother. He's like, "Look, Dad started a cult. Like this is a cult." Like they're like, "No, man, we're just giving people a purpose." He's like, "No, this is a cult," which becomes pretty apparent.
Well, and he says that there. He doesn't ever say it again. But as the movie goes on, they start acting more and more culty. Like there's a point where his brother is just like standing there playing a guitar while they're waiting on his dad to come in and speak, and like everyone's just like, it's
he's like
weird.
playing a guitar and a kazoo at the same time or something like that.
Yeah, it's so weird, man.
But I think so. After she's admitted into the compound, I think the next thing the real next event in the movie is we find out because Robert Redford invites like a select group of the people at the compound into a meeting, and he tells them that he's figured out a way to see what we see when we die.
Yes.
He says, like, I've created a device, and when we die, I can capture everything we see. And I think we've seen, before this, that they've already started experimenting with like euthanizing themselves, I guess, and then bringing them back to life.
Yeah.
So they already are like doing experiments on themselves, each other, by killing them and then bringing them back. So now he's saying like, I can see what you're seeing. I can figure out where we go, kind of.
Yeah.
And so the next journey we go on is them going to the morgue to steal a dead body.
Yeah.
Because that's how they're going to measure it. They're going to use this device on a dead body and see if it works.
Well, and it kind of makes, they have this conversation where it sounds like Robert Redford was just going to strap it on and go. And they're like, but once you do this, like your brain activity won't return. So like, this is like a one trick thing. And then if you're gone, who's going to do this research? Because there's no other, there's no other doctor there. Everyone else is like volunteers and assistants and stuff like that. So yeah, so they get a dead body, which I didn't really follow the logic to like, why, if someone was dead already, what are you going to follow? But
well, I mean, I guess if you could somehow like electrocute the, brainstem or something, maybe that's how they're measuring like what they've seen when they died. Maybe some part of that's still out there. Maybe, I don't really get it either, but
well, if they sewed enough cadavers together and electrified them, they come to life. I mean, this is essentially Frankenstein too.
The Discovery Centipede.
Oh, no. Not what I was thinking at all. Horrifying.
But okay, so this is the first part of the movie where, or maybe the only part of the movie where I questioned it. Because I was like, this whole time, Jason Segel has been so against everything that his dad has done. And he's been so off put by anything that they're doing at the compound. And his dad's just like, we need to get a dead body. And then the next thing you see is him in a truck on the way to go get a dead body. Like, why is he going along with it?
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. Like,
well, he never even says like a negative word about it until they're standing over a corpse in the morgue that they've broken into. And it's like, and then he's like, well, are you really going to do this? Well, we're inside now, man. It's a little late to ask these questions.
The only thing I can think of is Isla went to go get the movie. And obviously, at this point in the movie, we know he's infatuated with her. Like, he's drawn to her. So whatever.
Well, I think even on a surface level, he feels like his dad has done this great wrong and he wants to protect people from it. And he's brought her unwittingly into this situation. So I feel like he feels like he's responsible from protecting her in some way.
And he's constantly telling her like, hey, don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like, hey, by the way, don't do that. So it is pretty clear that he's in it to save her somehow.
Yeah.
So they bring back the dead body and they hook it all up to the new machine that they have made, and nothing happens. It's just, they keep zapping this dead body. He was like, dude, you're going to fry the whole body. Like, you got to stop. And they keep trying and nothing's happening. They have it hooked up to some sort of monitor. It's just static. There's, you're expecting some sort of vision to pop up. Nothing's happening.
Was Ghost? I think the monitor was called Ghost Vision. Like,
yeah. Ghost Star. And then, so they all leave. They're like, oh, crap. They all leave. And then we find out Jason Segel basically took some piece of the device apart before they started it, and he put it back together. And then, so he goes.
Oh, is that what he was doing?
Yeah. So he goes in after it didn't work.
Yeah.
And he puts in a piece that he had taken out. Okay.
See, I thought he was putting in like a recording thing. Like that part didn't automatically click that he had taken it out for me. Because I was like, why is he, that was my only thing. Is he putting like a monitoring thing and he's going to come check it again? But
yeah, he bamboozled it.
Now I understand.
That's my way I'm going to put it. He bamboozled it. And
this is how you make the perfect Corona, by the way. If you put collected lime juice from a plastic lime, it kills the virus. You heard it here, folks.
All right.
Go
So
ahead.
if you guys are suffering from corona out there, remember,
Mm.
just add a little lime. Ryan
No, no,
English
no, 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 no.
approved.
Disclaimer. Not only are we not movie experts, we are also simultaneously not, epidemiologists or anything of the sort.
We are not doctors,
No.
nor do we play one on TV.
Hey, speak for yourself.
so, so Jason Segel puts the machine back together, and he's about to, he's taking it off, all the stuff off the dead body. He's gonna fix the dead body, I guess. So get it ready to go back to the morgue. And while he's doing that, the machine starts to work, and he sees whatever's going on to the monitor.
Ghost. Sorry, I've been holding that in for a while.
Yeah, so all right, guys, that's the end of this podcast. This has been Ryan and Nick. That's what flip. We're gonna have a couple more Coronas and watered down lime juice, and so he sees what the dead guy saw, I guess, and he sees the dead guy going into a hospital, and he sees him interacting with someone and somehow that's recorded. I don't think it's very apparent, but he has.
Well, and that's why I thought that thing was recording device, because all of a sudden I recorded. Like, I've seen enough Ninja Turtles to know if you put something on the back of stuff, it'll record everything for you.
Ryan, you dumb idiot! Obviously, that's not what that was. Yeah. Some people come in and find him messing with the body, and like, what's going on? And he's just like, we got to take this back to the morgue. But he's clearly thinking about what he just saw. And I think the scene where they're taking the body back to the morgue is great.
Yeah.
When they take the body in the body bag and just put it in a parking spot in front of the morgue. And then they call them like, hey, I just drove by. I don't know if you guys are playing some kind of screwed up hide and seek, but there's a dead body in front.
Yeah, the best hide and seek. I
like
how there's no like
fun
repercussions yet. Like, they're so happy to have the body back that they just run inside. Like, you see them come out and check it, and they're looking around. It's like, So yeah, that was pretty great to me all the way around.
And then I think we start to follow Jason Segel's character. Kind of, so he's following this memory, and he's trying to figure out what it is. He's trying to figure out what did I just see? And I think what he thinks is that he's not seeing where the guy went after he died, which is what his dad thinks it's doing.
Yeah.
He thinks that it just recorded a memory. So this is like some sort of memory that the guy had, and we figured out a way to capture that.
Yeah.
And why he has come to that conclusion is because he realizes that from the recording he has that the hospital exists in the real world. It's like, oh, this is a real place. Mm-hmm. So this must be something that actually happened. And he starts to realize that, okay, he finds the name of the dead body, and he connects it. Okay, there was a patient at this hospital that has the same name, and they're connected. And, okay, he's like, all right, so he went to go visit somebody at this hospital. That's what happened. I'm getting it, I'm piecing it together. So him and Isla, he reveals what he's found to Isla, and they start to, kind of do this discovery together. They go to the hospital. They find the records of the person who was there. And through that, they find the address to the person who was at the hospital of the dead guy, who's related to the dead guy.
Yeah.
So
that was in the what they think is a memory at this point.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, we'll prove this by going to that person's house and just basically like bringing up the memory. If they can corroborate the memory, then we know that's what happened.
Yeah.
So they go to that person's house. They start talking. They find out it's the dead guy's sister, and the house belongs to their dad. So the
Yeah.
dead guy and his sister's dad who died in the hospital. And so they're kind of sitting at the table with her, telling her that, oh, we were friends of the dead guy. We just wanted to know if there's going to be a service for him and stuff. And she's like, oh, I wouldn't know. And his sister's kind of standoffish about anything about her brother. And Isla just kind of comes down and is like, look, you don't really seem sad that your brother's dead. and so they had some sort of bad relationship. And Jason Segel goes, oh, yeah, he had mentioned that he had went to see his dad on his deathbed at the hospital.
Yeah.
And you were there. And the lady goes, I don't know what he told you, but he never came to visit our dad in the hospital. Which, derails their entire hypothesis.
Yeah.
Because now they don't know what this is. They don't know if it's a memory. They don't know, they have no idea what they've come up with. And then I think when they come back to the compound from that event, basically word has gotten around in the compound that the initial, memory capture, whatever this device is that we're going to call it, didn't work. And Robert Redford's character is starting to realize that people on the compound are spreading the word that it didn't work. Whatever we've been working towards just didn't work.
Yeah.
And that's when we get the great scene of Jason Segel's brother playing a guitar and a kazoo on stage, just waiting for his dad. While they have like 30 or 40 people sitting in a crowd watching him.
Sure. But I mean, with them in their seats, clearly in rows, it definitely feels like some sort of religious event. It gets super culty. Yeah. And then with his dad, so Robert Redford comes in and basically humiliates her with the inside knowledge he has of her, and then kicks her out, like puts her out on her own.
We didn't explain who her was.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you're right. Her from the movie. Her, the
Ghost.
It was Okja. Crossover. He brought the super pig in. He's like, you're just a mutant pig.
You thought you liked Avengers. But here comes Jason Segel and Okja.
See, everybody's been talking about how like Avengers Endgame tied everything together, but this Netflix movie universe is really, really tight fitting. It's really coming together.
It's gonna get crazy. And then somebody from the platform came out and pooped on them all.
I like it.
All right, no, continue. Who is she?
Oh, who is she?
Yeah.
I don't know her name.
Lacey,
yes. She is the assistant that's been there. She's been there for a year. She came there. Her life was affected by the discovery because her father and her sister killed themselves to get there. And I guess she implied maybe she lived with him. They didn't even tell her about it. They didn't even invite her. So she's kind of got this bitterness, like she's been left behind anyway.
And by her family,
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's kind of what he exposes to the whole thing. Lacey, he basically exposes information that you imagine came out in that interview, which then lets everyone know, I have all of this dirt on you, and I can expose you at any moment and then cut off this support that I've been giving you and put you back out on your own. He lets her know, I found her in the woods about to commit suicide herself by shooting herself in the stomach. Right. So he's kind of established that she's unstable herself.
And the reason he does that is because he finds out she's the one who's spreading the information that the device didn't work.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they establish in one glance seeing her talking to 3 people. And it's like a heck of a reason to throw somebody who's, is suicidal out on their own.
But that's also where you get the creepy vibes from Rob Redford. That's the moment where you're like, dude, what are you doing? Because up until that point, you kind of just feel like he's a little crazy, but, he's still kind of sensible.
Yes.
Like there's a moment where Jason Segel brings up like all the followers, to
Yeah.
him, and he's just kind of nonchalant about it. He's like, "Look, I'm just giving people without a cause a purpose,"
Yeah.
and at the same, while that's still kind of crazy, you can kind of reason with him, like, okay, this guy's just kind of like doing what he can, or at
Yeah.
least he feels like that's what he's doing.
But this, he very much
Yeah.
becomes a cult leader.
Flip to him like turning on the people who are following him and like, bleeding them to dry, kind of, just like
Yeah.
leaving them, throwing them out into the rain or whatever.
Well,
But
and like, it was like a mob boss killing scene, where he walks around the table and kills somebody. It was a power move. And
yeah,
he was emotionally manipulating all of them, everyone else in the room, and totally sacrificed her for that. He has no clue what she's going to do after that. She could go kill herself that night. He doesn't know. He just lets her go.
right. And so we haven't. So Jason Segel hasn't told his dad to this point what he knows.
Yeah.
His dad's still just under the belief that nothing's working. But I believe after this event is when it triggers his dad. He just says, "Screw it," and he puts himself in the machine.
Yeah,
Alive and
they
all,
find him in the machine. Yeah,
and they're going to measure what's going on. So basically, Jason Segel and Isla are in their room, and his brother comes rushing in, like, "You got to come now!" Like, "Dad, it's Dad," and they just run to that room, and they find out that he's going to conduct the experiment on himself. And by the time they get there, he's already under, so they can't stop what's happening. Like he's basically just has to go through this experience before they can bring him back. And that's when, they're all kind of like freaking out. They're like, we got to stop this. We got to get him out of here. And then on the screen comes this scene, which we didn't do a good job of bringing this up, but it is.
But it's essential to the plot.
It's essential to the plot, and we totally forgot to talk about it. But so this whole time, Isla is kind of figuring out that something happened to Jason Segel's mom. She's kind of figuring out that she died, and they don't really know why. And then it comes out that Jason Segel's mom killed herself.
And that Jason Segel holds his dad responsible.
Yes. And it actually happened before the discovery.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually something that was caused by them discovering this. It happened before that. So it, I think that's an interesting distinction they make.
Absolutely.
Because it definitely, like, the whole time the movie's surrounded in suicide.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's hard to feel one way about someone committing suicide in this world.
Yeah.
Until you hear that it happened before people knew that there was something after death. So when they bring that into play, it's kind of like, oh shit, like that was just, that was real suicide, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, because right now, if someone commits suicide, it's an absolute tragedy, and I'm sure it would be in this world too. But at the same time, in that world, they're believing there's something else. They're believing there's something more. Whereas, like, in our world, suicide is more of just, it's someone being so depressed that they can't live anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with this. So I remember when that came up, it affected me in a way. I was like, oh shit, like that's deep. That's rough. And so that's brought into it. And so that is a pretty big plot point that we just kind of failed to talk about. But and also, I don't think we talked about the fact that the reason his dad got involved with the discovery was because Jason Segel told them about something that happened when he died for a couple of minutes and then was brought back to life. Like, essentially, he died when he was a kid. His heart stopped beating, and he saw some event. He saw a light and stuff, and they brought him back to life, resuscitated him, And he told them about that, and that's what started his dad's obsession with what happens after death.
After death, yeah.
So it's kind of this whole entangled mess. Like it's Jason Segel feels responsible not only for his mom's death to some extent, because it's what drove his dad to be so, such a workaholic that he wouldn't spend time with his wife anymore, but also is what, started the discovery, which has ended, I think at this point, there's like a running ticker of 4 million lives.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So, it's all surrounding Jason Segel to some extent. He, and his constant need to save people from this is apparent because of all of those factors.
Yeah.
So, okay, cut back. Here we go. Now
Robert Redford is dead.
Now Robert Redford
He's hooked up to
dead.
a machine.
He's hooked up to the machine, and they're like, "Oh crap, Dad, no!" And then on the screen, they see their mom, and this is a moment where, they kind of stop thinking about their dad. You can tell, like immediately, they're not concerned with him being dead anymore. They're like, "Oh my God, that's mom."
Yeah.
And the way she actually died was, it was their anniversary. Robert Redford was working. She cooked dinner for them. She asked him to come in for dinner, stop working, and he said he didn't have time for that. He was working. She went up, made herself a bath, and drowned herself. That's what we're led to believe, at least.
Okay.
And
so they never like jumped down what that was. So I don't know if she slit her wrists or.
I mean, drowned herself, slit her, whatever. We know that Jason Segel found her dead in the tub the next morning.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what happened. So, and so in the scene, basically, they're watching from their dad's perspective. He's dead. It's his memory or his event. They see him, and she is walking into the office saying, "Hey, you need to stop working. Dinner's ready." And he's telling her, no, I have to work. I have to finish this. And, so obviously you're watching them like relive this traumatic moment. They're like, oh, this is where it happens. This is where she kills herself. And in that moment, they see their dad stop working, go out into into their living room or wherever, stop their mom from going up to her bedroom, saying, "You know what? I'm going to stop working tonight. Let's have dinner." And she comes down, and that's the end of it. They bring him back to life.
Yeah.
And so this is like a huge moment in the movie where now they know, this isn't a memory capture device. This is something way different. And now that they've had time to think about it and, reflect, Robert Redford starts to say, what if when we die, we're not actually brought into like a new plane of existence. It's just a different version of where we are now. And so you kind of start to realize that maybe what happens is you are reliving moments in your life just differently. So maybe some sort of regret or something, like, for instance, neglecting your wife to the point where she kills herself. So, and we saw that with our previous dead guy, where he didn't go see his father before he died, and that was his memory. He actually, in his memory, went to go see his father at his deathbed. Which, I don't know. What did you think about that part of the movie? Like that moment where you kind of are starting to unravel what's actually going on.
Well, I definitely thought it turned a corner and got very fast-paced, and I mean, honestly, they were interesting ideas. I thought one of the most interesting shifts in character was Robert Redford's character, upon this realization, realizes how incredibly dangerous this is. Now, this is a man who hasn't taken responsibility for any of the events that happened because of his work before. Which I guess kind of maybe even echoes into what happened with his wife, even though the brother negates that, like, hey, this is why he's driven to figure this out, because he needs to know that she went somewhere. But you see a man that has really hidden behind the idea of knowledge is power. We're going to say that all of a sudden turn a point and say, oh no, if people know this, people absolutely will kill themselves. If you know you get a do-over button, this is dangerous information. Everyone simultaneously agrees we are dismantling this completely. This cannot get out. No matter what we've spent working on, like, no one can know this, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a huge turning point in the movie for sure. And I think you're exactly right. Like Robert Redford's character just turns completely on a heel. Like he goes from just like needing to know everything to like, oh crap, he all of a sudden understands his role in it.
Yeah.
He understands that maybe people don't need to know this. Maybe this is too much information. Which is definitely, it's a cool part of the movie, and I think it's where I started to get really interested in the movie.
Yeah. Well, things start happening very quickly.
The pace of the movie starts to go rapid here.
Yeah.
Like it starts picking up really quick because the whole time they are developing the characters, but the information around the discovery is really slow up until this point. Like you're really just kind of getting peripheral things. And then
they could have, like, honestly just decided that it was memories and proven it, and his dad kind of had to accept that, and that it would have felt like a complete movie. Sure. Like if you go to his dad and be like, yeah, they're accepting these things, and then they just kind of walk away from it. It wouldn't have felt incomplete. This was an acceleration. I feel like.
Much so. Yeah, and no, I agree. Like that would have been an interesting story to tell too, if you had to follow, his dad with the realization that all these people killed themselves, and really all I'm following is memories. Obviously, that's not what happened, but that's an interesting story to tell at least.
Well, and the side story, of course, is Jason Segel and Isla's characters developing a romance out of hopelessness. Yeah. And so, and really, I mean, when you're talking about dealing with these super heavy things and looking for some sort of answers, having them come to the realization, like, hey, the only real answer is life goes on, it would have felt satisfying too, having them like leave together. Maybe his dad kicks him out at that point, you're just wrong. There's too much, and he finally walks away, washes his hands of it. But this was very different.
And then from there, so they all agree they have to break the machine. They have to dismantle it. They can't share this information. And that is when everyone in the compound starts to be like, hey, what's going on? And that's brought to Robert Redford's attention. He's like, okay, I'm going to address them. I'm going to tell everyone. So he gathers them all outside, and everyone's out there. Jason Segel and Isla come out there. And at this point, it seems like Jason Segel and Isla are, they go from kind of being just this quirky, maybe friendship, to like they're in love. You can kind of tell. Like they've turned a corner somewhere. And while Robert Redford is starting to explain, you can kind of tell he's just going to kind of say, like, look, nothing's working. Like, it's over. Like we didn't find what we thought we were going to find. And that's when Lacey comes back into the show.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a gun. And everyone's like, yo, chill. Like, it's going to be cool, man. We haven't found anything. You could come back. Nothing's going on. And then she shoots the gun. And you're like, what the hell, man? Everyone's freaking out. Stuff's going on. And she shoots Isla. And I have to say, this is when the movie gets super depressing, like super hardcore, really quick. And so she shot Isla. She doesn't know what she's doing, but at the same time, you can tell the reason Lacey did it is because she feels like Isla replaced her somehow in the group.
Sure.
Isla was invited to the select group to talk about the memory machine.
Which she already mentioned in a previous dialogue. Yeah, that she was jealous about it.
And she kind of mentions that other people who have been there for longer weren't. So she
Yeah.
questions that. And then she gets kicked out and Isla stays. So it's kind of a side plot that I don't think is really developed that much. Like it seems drastic, but you understand Lacey's character is, a ticking time bomb, kind of,
Sure.
to some degree.
Well,
So
and she had another throwaway dialogue scene with the older African American guy that Jason Segel knew from before, from assisting his dad. But they're having a conversation in the hallway about it's just a matter of time before people start killing other people to send them into a better place. And so when she shoots the gun and looks at Lacey, she's like, I didn't kill her. I gave her another chance. I sent her away. And it kind of like paints Lacey, I think, in this light where she's upset about her dad and sister committing suicide, but she's also kind of a coward about it. You know what I mean? Like she wants to take action, but she's not going to jump off that ledge. I don't know. It was really interesting to me.
yeah, because if you think about the way she's been painted so far and the information we have, you would think that in that scene she would have killed herself.
Yeah.
Right? So that she kills someone else is kind of telling. It's like she wasn't willing to pull that trigger. She doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
To some extent. And but from there, Jason Segel's character spirals real quick. That was the person he loved, that he was pretty sure he was going to leave this place with, I'm sure at this point. And
well, they were holding hands outside. They had already slept together like right before that. He had walked her through the trauma of both losing her husband and then before that losing her son, which kind of implies that what cost her husband. And she helped him through the loss of his mother and all of those things. So yeah, no, he was definitely, both of them stepping out on a new leaf that neither one of them had been in for a long time. Yeah. That's amazing.
And from there, since now Jason Segel is just spiraling, he's going kind of nuts. He just decides, screw it, I'm going to connect myself to the event machine, the thing that is going to take me to whatever's after death, kind of. And which I don't know why he doesn't just kill himself. I don't know why he hooks himself up to the machine to do it. Maybe he just knows that maybe euthanasia or something, it'll be harmless. I don't know. But so he hooks himself up to the machine, and his father kind of comes in on that event, kind of figures out that that's happening and is trying to stop him, but he's locked the door, and he's basically just killed himself.
Yeah.
And what happens then is we find him back on the boat, back on the ferry. Yeah. And Isla's there again. And he's like, what the hell is going on? Isla's kind of talking to him. And he doesn't really understand. He's trying to figure out, why am I here? Why am I back on the boat? Why am I back on this ferry? Where are you? And then Isla just appears and is kind of talking directly to him. Whereas before, when we saw them on the ferry, she was just kind of nonchalant over in the corner. Now she's like directed at him.
Yeah, she knows him. She's very aware.
And
which was the only part, I'm going to say this is the only part that made no sense via their logic for the other stuff to me. And maybe it was just me. Like, the idea was you go back to this point and then she consequently explains to him, you've gone back to this boat with me many, 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 many times. And this is the only time you've saved me. So I don't know if she was given clarity because she had just gotten saved that time.
Okay, pause. Isn't this where it kind of feels like Inception?
Sure. Yeah.
Like the whole scene where, okay, now we find out that he's been on this boat multiple times with her. it just reminded me of that scene in Inception. You know, they've gone deeper and deeper into the levels
Mhm.
of their mind together, and one of them's gone crazy, kind of. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It's anyways. Continue.
But and she mentions that like the things that you thought were not necessarily deja vu, but things that you were like, hey, I think I've known you before. Those thoughts in your head are just kind of echoes of the memories of how many times you've been down this.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, she explains to him like, next time you won't be able to come back here. Like you have done this, and he's like, but I didn't save you. You died. And she's like, there's other definitions of saving someone rather
Well,
than
and we
just
find out that in other versions of this, she has killed herself every time.
yeah, every time.
And this is the first time that she died, but she didn't kill herself.
Yeah.
So he stopped her from doing that essentially.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, I mean, I think that's her line. You know, there's different versions of saving someone. She saved, he saved who she was and let her believe in life again, even though that life then ended.
Now, so and one thing that I don't really understand the ending. I don't really get it.
Oh, I get it. Totally.
So fuck you, Ryan.
The super pig, right, stays with the little girl, and they live happily ever after. But now they have a baby super pig.
And Iron Man, and they all.
Well, you know, Robert Redford was in it. If they're talking about multiple realities, if Chris Evans walks in full Captain America regard, you're like, oh.
But no, what I don't understand is so, he's reliving this event on the ferry, and we actually find out that I don't think this was a real event in his life. You know, like other people were reliving something that happened to them, whereas we find out that Jason Segel, the event in his life that he's reliving is just he read in a newspaper on the ferry that someone named Isla had drowned themselves.
Oh, you know, I think she did say that.
Yeah, it's like he's not connected to that person at all, but it's something that affected him.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so it
is that what she said? The first time we rode the ferry together, you didn't even speak to me, but you read in the paper a couple weeks later that someone and he realized that they were on the ferry together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Weird. So and then so he dies essentially, you know, in this version of his, you know, afterlife. And he says, like, I hope I'm gonna remember you this time. She says, you know, like, I hope you will too. And the next time we see him, he's on a beach. He's not on the boat anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what confused me, because I was like, okay, I kind of get that he's reliving this event over and over again, and he's kind of come to a resolution of that event. Like
which is what she says, you won't be back at this one. And like you hear this whole time they're having this conversation, you're hearing the voices of the people trying to bring his body back.
Yeah.
And they kind of like start raising, so you think that like that's going to happen, and that's when he wakes up on a beach, and you're like, oh, that just didn't happen. He's really just dead.
But but I mean, he was dead the whole time, right?
Kind of. Well, I mean, that's the idea. Is he really bouncing from reality to reality? Are we all bouncing from reality to reality? Now,
are we all in the Matrix?
Yeah, I've been spinning this top where the whole time we've been talking, he hasn't stopped. So, you know, I'm deep in that inception hole. No, the interesting part about the beach thing to me, and maybe this was just me, but it rhymed with what he described himself seeing as a child. He was in the water. There was a boy. It must have been my brother, but I don't know why this boy was there. I don't know why I was there. So it's almost like he bounced back to this time even before she had killed herself. And then once she killed herself, he goes back there. Now, I mean, like, then you have to ask yourself, well, what are the time frames? Because if he was a child, then that child wouldn't have been born yet.
Well, okay. Here's my my big brain take. at the
Okay.
end.
Big brain take.
So man, can we get an actual sound that says
Yes,
at the end of every podcast? We say big brain take.
Oh, good.
So okay, what I think actually happened is he died when he was a kid.
Okay.
So that event that he talks about throughout the movie of like, when I was a kid, I drowned, my heart stopped, they brought me back.
Yeah.
I think he actually died then. And then now he's been reliving the events since then.
So you think that as a child he was a neurologist?
Yeah.
It's like Doogie Howser.
No,
I think your big brain take is that he was a ghost.
No, we've been through this, Ryan. He was a super pig.
Super pig. That's right. I mean, I don't know, because it kind of like, that was kind of the implication of the machine to me, was like, you were bouncing to another reality to have another chance. So if that's the case, and even if he died as a kid, he bounced to a reality where they were able to revive him, and he moved. You know, and maybe that's just me reading too much into their explanation.
But you're
but
right.
It has to make me think that, like, so if their logic is, and this is way too big for any movie to answer, but their logic is, when someone dies having done something wrong, they have to bounce to like this regret and kind of fix things. Like, what do you think happened when Hitler died? Like, what moment in his life does he bounce back to? Is it like him in art school, and like he finally decides to go through with it and he just becomes an angry German artist and never affects anyone else's life outside of his sphere? Like, it always bounces back to that. Like mass murders. Like if like Ted Bundy kills some, like and then he finally gets electrocuted, does he wake up and he's in that first person's house? And he's like, man, I really shouldn't kill this person. Like, it just is so strange to me. And that, my friend, is my big brain take.
I really like that you started that with, "This is too big for any movie to answer." Like, I thought you were gonna go with like some philosophical question, you know, like, what is death? What is life? And then what happened to Hitler, bro?
Well, I'm just saying, like is there a version of reality where he doesn't hurt anyone? Like, is that a thing? Like, you know, it just somewhere out there? Is that what they're implying?
He killed himself after the Holocaust. He goes back to art school. Because that's where it all started.
That's where it all. Well, definitely, man. Flunked out of art school, became the angriest man in Germany. Ball just started rolling.
Oh God. Well, man, that is this week's Big Brain Takes.
Big Brain Takes. Oh,
I gotta say, mine was anticlimactic compared to yours.
I think that like anytime there's a movie that like involves time travel or anything, it always goes back to, dude, why wouldn't you stop that? Like, what, like, so it's like, to me, if this is asking the question, like, everyone has a chance to repeat their mistakes, like, are we in the darkest timeline? Like, I don't know what happened.
So that's, what was the movie, the like satirical Holocaust movie that came out recently? Recently they came out, Jojo.
Oh yeah, Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit, yeah. So that movie, that's what that was. That was exploring the discovery, but from.
Did you ever see Kung Fury?
Yes. That movie's fantastic.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Wait, isn't that a Netflix movie? No, that's a YouTube movie, right? That's just someone on YouTube.
I think it's just it was a Robert Rodriguez paid for movie. Like, he had for a little while, he had a short-lived network, and that's where it appeared on. I think
That's
maybe
weird.
I'm making all of that up, but
All right, so that basically brought us to the end of the movie.
Oh man. But I do have to say this, and this is probably my biggest critique. Like, I like the
Wait.
idea.
Wait. I don't think we actually talked about. Did we talk about what? Like, he finds himself on the beach.
Oh yeah,
after
sorry,
he
we
dies.
didn't walk through the scene. Go ahead.
But
And Hitler's there.
and he saves baby
He just
Hitler.
shoots him. It's like, end of story. Take that, Hitler.
So he saves a kid from drowning, and the kid ends up being Isla's son.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, he's fine. He was just getting a little deep in the water, so I saved him. And Isla's like, oh, you can't do
And
that.
she doesn't
starts
even have
walking.
a conversation with him. She's just
Yeah.
like, I just discovered my son
Yeah.
in the arms
Get
of
up-
a giant man, and I don't care.
Get away from me. And then he starts walking away, and the movie ends with him, you kind of see him turn around and realize like he knows who she is.
Who done it?
And then Hitler.
Can I just tell you that, like, until they started talking, I didn't really get the impression that boy was in any danger. Like, he was
Yeah, me
laughing
neither.
hysterically the whole time. He was like, I'm getting wet. And they're like, okay, don't drown. So
He's in like ankle deep water.
at least she knows that he died happy. Where is that coming from? That's real dark.
At least.
So strange, man.
Yeah.
Now,
It's quite the movie.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, man.
I mean, I think they did a good job. There are some points in the movie that are kind of weird. Like, and I don't know that I picked up on this the first time around. I picked up on it this time where certain characters say the same lines. So, like, there are moments when Isla and Robert Redford describe the guy from the morgue's memory the same way, exactly the same way. They say the exact words, word for word. And there are a couple moments like that in the movie where you're kind of like, at least this time around watching it, I was like, that's weird. Like, why did that happen? And honestly, I didn't remember how the movie ended. Like, it's been so long since I watched it. Like, I was trying to figure out the whole time. Taylor was watching it with me. She's trying to remember everything that's happening. She wants to spoil it for herself so bad. She's
That's
like,
awesome.
Man, what is happening? I'm trying to remember. And her hot take was she goes, Isla is his mom.
That would be like he saved himself from getting drowned. Oh, that would be amazing.
Well, it's some Freudian shit where like he falls in love with his mom.
Oh no! Yeah, there's some serious like Back to the Future implications in that one.
But that, yeah, she at the end of the movie, she was like, "Man, I really misfired."
I like it.
Yeah. No. So, what'd you? Any closing thoughts? What'd you take away from it? How did it end for you?
I took away from it that, they definitely should have destroyed that machine, because I think if anyone thought that, hey, I would get another chance, they would just off themselves the first like dark period they had in their life. That was weird and rough. No, I thought it was really creative. It was just heavy, Yeah. I mean, that's where it falls for me.
But
this guy? I mean, this guy looks like I didn't see The One I Love. I've seen the poster before, but I didn't see it. Looks like he's done a lot of TV writing, and he looks like a fairly young guy. Well, he's a year younger than me. Charlie McDowell. He looks like a young guy. So, I mean,
this is a big time movie. Like, that's what Robert Redford and Jason Segel are big time actors.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I think that I wasn't disappointed with the writing. It was just heavy.
Well, so to me, the ending changes the whole movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, you're going through this whole
like
movie
the platform.
Yeah, the ending of the platform leaves you feeling way more broken and alone than you did before you started the movie. You're right, Ryan. It changed a lot.
They're interchangeable. Let's be real.
But no, so like the whole time, you're kind of in this depressing world where shitty things are happening.
Yeah.
But the end of the movie, you kind of realize that it's not real. You know, it's not reality. Like some part of it is another life that this guy's living, or his past life where he's resolving his own issues. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it ends on a good note, which
Yes.
I don't know that we expected this movie to. It ends on a note where he realizes, you know, who she is. He remembers Isla, and he, you know, we're led to believe he's going to pursue that.
Yeah, he's going to destroy her marriage. And I think that there was a very thin line of I mean, because he was asking dark moral questions and having us look into places that we don't normally look, and that's always tricky. Like whenever you make, I have a friend that's doing right now. He's doing a satire, and grant this wasn't a satire, but the idea is whenever you introduce a comment, you are commenting on that original through that lens of that satire you're making or the comment you're trying to make. So I think it's a little tricky. I mean, yes, I felt encouraged for Jason Segel as a character, but it almost made life in general seem a little less worth it. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm a pessimistic person, but the idea that like anytime, at any time.
Wait, hold on. You left this movie feeling like life was less.
Well, I'm just saying, if you,
I'm sorry, Ryan.
if you jump through the hoops that these people went through, so like to say, basically they're Groundhog's Day in it, right? So basically, Jason Segel wakes up on this beach. She saves Isla's son. He realizes Isla's who she is, and he goes and hits on her, and she resists him. Does he then kill himself, wake up on that beach, and then say a different like starting line? And then if she like it just, you know, I mean, like it has some dark implications. It really does in my head. Maybe I'm cynical, but
I love that you related it back to Groundhog's Day.
I mean, really, that's what I feel like.
It's really just a dark Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. But I mean, like he has
Punxsutawney Phil, but it's still fun. You know what I mean?
You imagine like when he realizes who she is, maybe all of that information's unlocked. So he has this darkest secret just hiding behind his face. That's like, yeah, this ever gets scrappy. If I get stuck in traffic one day, I'm shooting myself. I'm going to start over that morning and take a different route to work. Like it's just crazy.
But I don't. Okay.
Like I said, maybe it's just me being a cynical person.
What I'll say is, we are led to believe that he remembers who she is.
Yeah.
But we don't know that he knows any more than that. Right?
Yes.
Like, and before he gets to that beach, they're not even sure that he will remember her. So, you know, the fact that he remembers her is kind of like, you know, what else is he going to remember? But we don't actually know that he's going to remember anything else but her. Or maybe she just seems familiar to him. You know, so it kind of, you know, it does leave you in a place of like, at least hope.
So you think that like his realization was, hey, you almost got your kid killed. Like he was like, you're a bad parent. Like his
realization was like when you see someone from high school that you didn't really know.
Yeah. Like, oh, hold on a second.
We talked once.
Oh man. So yeah, no, I mean, you know, these are, and this is me just being a jerk and overthinking things, you know, which you can do when something is out and finished. You can pick it apart, but I mean, I think as a movie on its own, it stands up, you know, pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a good movie. I think it's a good sci-fi film. Like, if you're a fan of, you know, those kind of movies that explore, you know, interesting ideas that aren't really possible, I think it does a good job of that. It doesn't leave you in a spot where you're like, well, that's a shitty ending. Like it gives you some resolution
Why
that
is the
you can
girl
be
on the
happy with.
platform?
Yeah.
She's breaking through. We don't know.
The real surprise part was at the end when a platform came out and smacked Jason Segel in the head.
That's awesome.
A little girl eats him.
No, hear me out. Maybe Jason Segel starts a company to make people, like, to force them to take control of their lives. What he's really doing is trying to commit them to commit suicide so they can go back and fix something that they messed up. And so he makes the platform. I'm telling you, these Netflix movies are connected. All of them are connected.
Can you imagine if there were, like, everyone was watching these Netflix movies but not watching the end credit scenes? And at the end of the discovery, someone approaches him like, do you want to make a platform?
We should start doing that. We really should start making our own scenes for these movies.
Wait, so what you're suggesting is we should cut scenes from these movies, dub our heads on them.
We should print out pictures of, like, Robert Redford and just cut the mouth area out and, like, talk to each other. Yeah, we could make it happen, man.
All right, so we have
time.
The 5 people that are watching this. We have 2 new segments of Ryan and Nic's 2 Bros, 1 Flick. We have our hot takes, or big brain takes, and then stay to the end of the credits, where we will create our own end credit scenes for each of these movies.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to make credits. Thanks a lot, Nick.
It's just 2. It's just 2 credits.
All right, so what is this called? This is called The Discovery, right?
Yes, sir.
Came out in 2017. So I have a buddy that works at Netflix, and he sent me. This wasn't put together by Netflix, but he sent me
name drop. Jeez.
Yeah. He sent me a Wikipedia list that someone has curated that is supposed to tell us whether or not they made the movie versus having purchased the movie.
Oh,
because we had asked that in one of our other like how we could. So I'm just looking on this one, and they absolutely made the discovery. So
I mean, it seems,
for what it's worth,
it seems too big of a budget film for them not to have made it.
Okay, yeah.
Like, to get people like Robert Redford and Jason Segel, it seems hard to believe that a giant corporation wouldn't have already put that into production if it wasn't them doing it.
That's true. Yeah. Now, maybe it wasn't
whereas the platform,
and they just put their faces on them. It's a deep fake, man. They paid Robert Redford to sit in a sound booth.
It was actually the same people from the platform.
The prequel to El Hoyo.
This one has derailed, I have to say.
Oh my goodness.
Oh. Wait, did you pick another banger? Come on, hit me with it.
Well, I mean, granted, I had not seen the platform, and I had seen Okja. This one is one called The Mute. Oh, that's not it. Sorry, I was going to tell you who directed it, but I looked it up on IMDb, and some German film or something came out. Or maybe it's just called Mute, not The Mute. But it's got Paul Rudd in it. It's a sci-fi film where the guy is
it's got
he can't talk, like his vocal cords have been damaged. And it's directed by Duncan Jones. It's called The Mute. It's a sci-fi setting, but it almost looks like a revenge crime story. Like the preview suggests that he's infatuated with this girl, and something happens to her. Like she gets hurt by a crime thing, and so he just starts killing his way through that crime syndicate. So
This movie just looks like an action film. Like
yeah, just
it,
a sci-fi setting.
it looks like Netflix version of John Wick.
Nice. I'm down.
My
Oh, hey, to give you some of Mr. Duncan Jones's credits before we jump into this, just so we know what to look for. He did direct the Warcraft movie. So
oh,
there you go.
fantastic. So giant CG'd orcs and
Yeah, yeah. We're
was
the
he
real
also
dramatists.
was he also on that Will Smith orc movie?
Oh man, I wish. No, but
That's cool.
yeah. So it should be fun. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be pretty interesting. At least I know the guy, the Swedish dude, the main
The Swedish Chef.
Alexander. Yes, no, I don't think they're the same people. I think they're from Sweden, both, but I don't think they all look alike, Ryan.
I thought the Swedish Chef was everyone from Sweden. I thought that he
That was just like a euphemism for all Swedish people.
Swedish people. Wow. It's hard to achieve like racism against white people. We totally hit it. That's where it is, man. All Swedish people are the same. We said it. We're not afraid to say it.
All right, from now on, that is going to be a running joke, and Two Bros One Flip just randomly call out Swedish people in the most racist way.
Oh, you know what? Paul Rudd's character is named Cactus Bill. So I think that's just what I'm going to call him from now on, Cactus Bill. I think it suits him much better than Paul Rudd. All right, cool. So so this week you gave it a 7-1.
Yep.
I have not changed my scores yet. I think I'm gonna. You know what? No, I'm not. I won't be that guy. I'm gonna leave it at 7.6. What's that?
Run me through your list.
Okay.
What's your scores?
So in The Shadow of the Moon, you gave it a 7.1. I gave it a 6. I was really harsh on that movie. The ending of that movie really like drove it into the ground for me.
I think at that time you didn't know we were going to do points.
Yeah, I was just
So
like, no, that's it.
You didn't know the depth between a 6 and a 7.
No. But I mean, for me, like it's not that the 3/4 of the movie isn't entertaining, but that ending just like it sent down. Well, there's a whole video on that. Watch it.
Linked in the bio.
The Platform, I gave a 7.5, and you gave a 6.2.
Man,
I would have given it like a 6.9.
7.5.
But see,
a 6.9
okay,
for the lulls.
So when I put together your video of what you would recommend, like 7 was still not a movie that you would recommend. 8 was a good movie. 9 was your favorite movie, and 10 is like an unattainable golden one. So for me, like a 7.5 wasn't that big of a deal.
Really, a 7 was something I wouldn't recommend.
You said you might watch it when you were bored, but you don't know. Like it wasn't a good movie. Your good movie threshold was 8. So that's kind of what I've been using. And maybe that's just my interpretation of your words. But that's why mine are coming up higher than yours.
I guess that makes sense. To be honest, none of the movies that we've watched yet have been like great movies to me. Like none of them have been movies that I would, maybe other than Okja.
Yeah, Okja was pretty solid.
Would really talk about, go out of my way to talk about. Like I don't think any of the others would be top 10 Netflix movies I've ever seen.
Oh, sure, no. But I think like for me, like Shimmer Lake was on that threshold where it had enough palatable things in it that I would not feel weird saying, go watch it. It might be fun. It might, you might not love it, but Okay, so anyway, Shadow of the Moon, you 7.1, me 6. Platform, me 7.5, you 6.2. Shimmer Lake, I gave it an 8 because I was the one I was like, it was solid, but it wasn't spectacular.
Shimmer Lake was an 8 for you.
It was, yeah. So it was a movie with no problems. Now, I think if I was grading it now, I would probably give it a lower score. But this is, we're moving forward. We're going forward. Okay, so you gave Shimmer Lake
in your mind
8.
In your mind, this movie changes Shimmer Lake for you? Is that why?
I think our progression of reviewing movies and understanding the scores and what they mean to me, like the score system has shifted a little bit. in my brain. Now, because I gave Shimmer Lake an 8, I gave Okja an 8.2 because I do think Okja is probably the best movie we've watched. You gave
Right.
Okja a 7.6. Discovery, I stand by my 7.6. You gave it a 7.1. So honestly, with Okja and Discovery, I mean, we are in that same margin of like 5 points. So
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm reserving my scores.
there you
I
go.
would say, like I.
I'm a score slut.
You hand out scores like you're trying to give them away.
Yeah.
No, I just like, but I think, like I'm trying to just reason my own scores in my head
Okay.
because they are kind of off the cuff to some
Yeah.
degree. But I would say for the majority, they all make sense to me just hearing them back. Like I don't think I would say that out of all of them, the platform was the hardest for me to watch. And
We're in a happy place.
Okja was definitely the best to me. So they all line up pretty well. And I still Okja is, I would say, just based off of the theme or the subject matter, it's the most interesting to me that we've watched so far. Like, so, but I still think this Discovery is good. It's just, it's really hard. It's really rough. So it's like, it's going to take a certain person to find value in the movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but.
Now,
Yeah.
I will say, with the movie we're not watching next week, The Mute, I have tried to watch it twice and never really gotten past the opening credits. So I'll be curious. This is kind of my excuse to power through this movie that I've attempted once or twice. So
well,
you're
so
welcome
far,
in advance.
So far, at least all the movies you picked have given us things to talk about. So
you don't have to dance around it. They've all
can't wait. In some way, they've had feces.
I like it. All right, cool. Well, hey, it's that's been the rundown of our scores and how much we done ourselves. We'll see you guys next week. This has been Ryan and Nick for Ryan and Nick's Two Bros, One Flick.